5 Ram engines you should never sell, because you will never buy anything cheaper to own than the good truck already sitting in your driveway. I'm Buck, 12 years a Mopar dealer tech. Let's settle it. Here's the rule that decides whether an engine is a keeper. Its worst repair has to stay smaller than what the truck is worth, and the parts to fix it have to be cheap and on every shelf. That's it. Not perfection. Affordability. 5 engines clear that bar, and I'll start with the one nobody gives credit to. Not because they're perfect, none of them is, but because everything that ever goes wrong with them is cheap, known, and fixable. That's the whole test. And I want to say the other half of that out loud, because nobody in this business ever will. The truck you already own has one enormous advantage over anything on a lot. It's paid for, or close to it, and you know exactly how it's been treated. Every truck you could replace it with is a stranger with a payment attached. Number 1, the 3.6 Pentastar V6. And I know some of you just rolled your eyes because it's not a V8. Hear me out, because this engine has quietly outlasted a lot of motors that got far more respect. It's an aluminum V6, chain-driven, 4 camshafts, and Chrysler built it by the millions across damn near every vehicle they made for a decade. That production volume is why it belongs on this list.
And belt
Parts
tension.
are everywhere,
Additionally,
and they're
a
cheap,
serpentine belt
and there isn't a
powers
shop
them.
in this
The amount
country
of
that hasn't
vibration
had
and
one
noise
apart.
is
When you own an engine that common, you never wait on a part and you never pay a specialist premium. 200,000 miles on clean oil is routine for these, and I mean routine, not a miracle somebody posts about online. And there's a piece of engineering in it people miss. It runs chains, not belts, and there's a separate chain for each head. That means no timing belt to replace at 100,000 miles, no interference disaster waiting on a rubber part. Chains that get clean oil last the life of the engine. That one decision took an expensive scheduled repair right off your calendar forever. Now let me be honest about the thing people bring up, because I'm not going to skip it. The Pentastar had cylinder head trouble early on. That was a 2011 through 2013 problem, and here's the part that gets left out. Ram didn't even get this engine until 2013. So almost every Pentastar that came in a Ram already has the corrected head. And from 2016 forward, you got the upgraded version with higher compression and a tougher coating on the valve train. The scary story you've heard mostly belongs to other vehicles, in other years. And there was even a warranty extension on that head. 10 years, 150,000 miles, which tells you Chrysler knew and covered it. If you're shopping one and it's a truck, you're almost certainly past all of it. There's one more noise worth knowing, and it's cheap if you catch it. These can develop a tick from a rocker arm. The little roller bearing inside gives up, and if you ignore it long enough, it'll start wearing the camshaft. Caught early, the rocker itself is a few dollars of part. So if a Pentastar starts ticking, don't wait it out and don't panic either. Get it looked at that month. That's a small bill, or a big one depending entirely on how long you drive on it. What actually wears out on this engine is the oil filter housing. It's plastic, it sits up top, and somewhere past 75,000 miles, it warps and starts weeping oil. You'll see it as a mess down the back of the block, or a slow drip on your driveway. Figure around $800 to have it done. And here's why that's a keeper problem and not a deal breaker. You can put an aluminum aftermarket housing on it and never do that job again. Ever. One known failure, one permanent fix. Done. I had a woman bring in a Pentastar truck convinced she had a rear main seal leak and was ready to trade it in. It was the filter housing. Aluminum unit went on, the leak was gone, and that truck's still on the road. She almost gave away a good truck over an oil cooler. Don't do that. And that's the pattern with this engine in general. Watch your oil level, keep an eye out for a weep up top, and it just runs. It won't win an argument at a tailgate against a V8. It'll just be there at 200,000 miles, while somebody else is shopping for a truck payment. And for a man who doesn't tow heavy, that's the entire job description. Better fuel numbers than a V8, cheap insurance, cheap parts, and enough truck for a bed full of tools or a trailer a few times a year. The Pentastar doesn't need to be exciting to be the right call. And I'll give you one more reason it's on this list. When a shop quotes work on a Pentastar, they've done it before, 20 times. This year, there's no learning curve baked into your labor bill, No ordering the wrong part. No waiting on a module from another state. Familiar is cheap, and nothing on the road is more familiar than this engine. Number 2, and this is the legend, the 5.9 Cummins 12-valve, 1989 through 1998. If there's an immortal engine that's ever been bolted into a pickup, this is it. Cast iron inline 6, forged crankshaft, and the part that matters most, a fully mechanical injection pump. Now know your years here, because it matters, and most people get it wrong. The 89 through 93 trucks run the Bosch VE rotary pump. The 94 through 98 trucks run the P7100, the one everybody calls the P-pump, and that's the one that made this engine a legend. Both are 100% mechanical. Both will outlive you, and the P-pump is the one that brings the money. If somebody's selling you a 91 as a P-pump truck, he either doesn't know or he's hoping you don't. No emissions plumbing, no DEF to buy, no DPF to regenerate, no computer sitting there deciding whether your truck feels like starting today. It's fuel, air, and compression, and that's the whole story. 400,000 miles on these is routine. There are documented working examples past 1 million. And the reason isn't luck, it's architecture. An inline 6 is naturally balanced. The firing forces cancel themselves out instead of trying to twist the block apart. Then, you've got a forged crank carried by a big main bearing between every single rod. So every bit of that diesel combustion pressure gets caught and passed straight into the block instead of flexing anything. I've measured cranks and bearings on these at mileage that would have finished off a gas V8 twice over, and they still came up in spec. It's not built like a truck engine. It's built like industrial equipment that happened to get a tailgate. That's not a figure of speech either. The same basic Cummins architecture went into generators, agricultural equipment, and machinery that runs continuously. Cummins never designed it around a warranty period. They designed it around a duty cycle. That's a completely different mindset than a V8 built to feel smooth for the first 100,000 miles. What kills these trucks is not the engine, it's rust. The body dissolves out from under a motor that's still perfectly healthy. And the one mechanical thing to know is the killer dowel pin. It's a known, documented item. It's cheap to check, and you pin it properly before it ever has a chance to back out. That's a preventive afternoon, not a catastrophe. And the injection pump on it can be rebuilt by a shop, rather than replaced with a black box you can't touch. There's no factory computer standing between you and the fix. Everything on this engine can be repaired by a competent man with hand tools, which is exactly why so many of them are still working 35 years later. And that matters more every year that goes by. The rest of the world is moving toward engines you can't touch without a subscription and a laptop. This one is the opposite of that, and the men who own them know exactly what they're holding. Here's the part that should end the argument. Clean 12 valves are going up in value, not down. I've watched men sell one for what felt like decent money at the time, and then spend the next 5 years trying to buy it back. Selling one of these is a decision guys genuinely regret. Before I get to the next 3, do me a favor, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below telling me which one of these you're running and how many miles are on it right now. I read every one. Number 3, the 6.4 HEMI, the 392. This is the one that gets overlooked, because there's an assumption baked into truck culture that if you're doing real work, you need a diesel. That assumption costs people a lot of money. The 6.4 is an iron block, big bore HEMI, and it does heavy-duty work without a single piece of diesel emissions equipment attached to it. No DEF to buy every few thousand miles. No DPF that has to regenerate and eventually clog. No CP4 high-pressure pump sitting there with the ability to send metal through your entire fuel system and hand you an $8,000 to $15,000 bill. None of that exists on this engine. Think about what that removes from your life over 10 years of ownership. No regeneration cycles interrupting short trips. No DEF gelling in cold weather. No sensor deciding you're done driving today. The truck starts and it works, and the only fluid it wants is oil. And when something does break on it, you're in gas engine parts pricing, not diesel pricing. A coil, a sensor, a water pump on a 6.4 costs what it costs on any V8. The equivalent part on a modern diesel often costs 3 times as much because there are fewer of them and they live in a harder environment. And maintenance is gas truck cheap. Oil and a filter, plugs, fluids, all the same cheap common parts as any HEMI. Compare that to a diesel oil change that's over $100 in oil alone before you touch the 2 fuel filters. Does it drink fuel? Absolutely. And it doesn't care who knows. That's the honest trade-off. But run the actual numbers on it. The diesel buy-in on a heavy-duty truck is somewhere around $10,000 over the gas engine before you've bought a single gallon. Add the emissions upkeep for the life of the truck. If you tow a few times a month, a camper, a boat, a couple of horses, rather than for a living every day, that 6.4 saved you that entire premium and every emissions headache that comes with it. I had a fellow come in half apologizing for his 6.4 because a buddy at work had been telling him for 2 years he should have bought the diesel. I walked him through what that buddy had spent on DEF, filters, and one sensor failure that put him in limp mode on a Sunday. His truck had cost him a fraction of it. He drove out a lot happier than he came in. Same watch items as any HEMI, clean oil, keep an ear on the top end, and the same reward. And there's a resale point worth knowing. Gas heavy-duty trucks sell to a different buyer, the guy who wants capability without diesel maintenance. And that crowd is growing every year as emission systems get more complicated. The 6.4 isn't the truck nobody wants. It's the truck a certain smart buyer is specifically looking for. Number 4. The 6.7 Cummins, the modern workhorse and the engine on this list with the strongest resale in the country. It's still a forged cast-iron inline 6, still built to a commercial duty standard, and still routinely running past 400,000 miles. The core of this engine is not in question and never has been. Now here's my honest line on it, and it's the thing owners get backwards. The engine is not the expense. The emissions system bolted around it is. One failed turbo actuator can put a $4,500 quote in your hand. A DEF sensor going bad will drop your truck into limp mode and you don't get a vote about it. And the newer ones carry that CP4 fuel pump too. Those are real costs and I'm not hiding them. But look closely at that list. Not one of those is the engine dying. Every single one is plumbing and electronics hanging off a motor that's still perfectly healthy underneath. You maintain the system around it, and the engine itself outlives the body it's sitting in. I've had these apart at high mileage, and the bottom end looks like it's barely started working. And a lot of that emissions hardware has real aftermarket answers now. An actuator that a dealer wants to bundle into a whole turbo assembly can often be sourced and recalibrated for a fraction of that. Knowing that one fact before you walk in changes the entire conversation at the service counter. And because they hold value better than anything else here, a real chunk of what you paid comes back to you the day you sell, which is exactly the reason you shouldn't. Selling a 6.7 means paying today's money for a replacement that's more complicated than what you already have. Every model year since yours has added more emissions equipment, not less. The truck in your driveway is mechanically simpler than anything you could go buy tomorrow, and it's already depreciated. You're holding the better end of that deal, and the dealer knows it. And on a truck that actually earns its keep, that math gets even more lopsided. A 6.7 that's been maintained is a working asset. You don't trade a working asset for a newer one with more regulation bolted to it and a note attached. You keep it running and let it keep paying you. And if you tow for work, understand what you'd actually be giving up. There's no replacement for the way this engine pulls a heavy load without ever sounding like it's working. That's not nostalgia. That's what a commercial duty inline 6 does, that nothing else in a pickup does. And the last one, number 5, the 5.7 HEMI. This is the finale, because this is the one most of you are driving right now, and you've spent years being told by the internet that you're sitting on a grenade. Here's the truth from my bench. Down where it counts, this engine is built heavy. I've torn these down well past 200,000 miles and measured mains, rod bearings, crank journals, and cylinder bores. And on a truck that got clean oil, they come up in spec, not marginal, in spec. The foundation of this engine was never the problem, and that's the single most important thing to understand about it. A cast crank, rods sized with margin, mains that spread the load, and a block that doesn't distort. There's nothing exotic in there and nothing fragile. It's an old-fashioned pushrod V8 underneath all the modern equipment, and old-fashioned pushrod V8s are the reason half the trucks in this country made it to 200,000 miles. Behind it, you've very likely got the 8-speed 2, which is the best transmission in the segment, and the other half of why these trucks go the distance. Give that one its fluid on a real interval, and the drivetrain as a whole is about as solid as anything sold in the last 15 years. 2014 brought the hardened camshaft, and that was a genuine improvement. Chrysler addressed the metallurgy on a part that was wearing out. But I'm not going to sell you a fairy tale, because the cam wasn't a cure-all. What actually kills these top ends is oiling. The cylinder deactivation system parks 4 cylinders, and those lifters sit there getting less oil than the ones still working. And that design carried on for years after the cam change. Now read that the right way, because this is the good news. That means your HEMI's fate is in your hands, not the factory's. Clean oil on a real interval. Don't let it sit and idle for hours at a stretch. Do those 2 things, and this engine will run to 300,000 miles on a bottom end that was built for it. And if you want to take the failure mode off the table entirely, you can run it in tow haul on the highway to keep those cylinders working, or do a proper delete with a non-MBS camshaft when the engine's open anyway. That's the one-time spending money up front buys you peace for the life of the motor. And when the worst case does come, understand exactly what it is. A cam and lifter job runs $3,200 to $5,000. That is a top-end repair. It is not a new engine, no matter what anybody at a counter tells you. And it's a fraction of what you lose walking away from a paid-off truck that had 100,000 good miles left in it. Parts are on every shelf in America. Every independent shop in every town knows this engine cold. That's the definition of a keeper. I had an owner in with a 2015 at 230,000 miles, and a dealer had already dangled a trade number at him and told him the motor was tired. I pulled a valve cover. It wasn't tired. It was fine. He kept it, and he's still driving it without a payment. That dealer didn't make a dime on him, and that was the whole point of what he'd been told. That's the part I want you to hold on to. A tired-sounding truck and a tired truck are 2 different things, and only one of them is worth walking away from. Get a second opinion before you ever believe the first one. And ask to be shown. Any honest shop will pull a cover and let you look at what they're describing. The ones that won't are telling you something without saying it. I've had men leave here almost embarrassed at how good the news was, because they'd spent a month bracing for a number that never came. 5 engines, and the same thread runs through every one of them. None of them is perfect. Every single one has a thing to watch. What makes them keepers is that the thing to watch is known. It's documented. The parts are cheap and everywhere, and the worst-case bill is smaller than the truck is worth. That's the entire definition, and it's the one the dealer never uses, because he doesn't make $1 on the truck already sitting in your driveway. If you're running one of these 5, you already own the cheapest transportation you will ever have. Feed it clean oil, fix the one thing it asks for, and drive it. Selling it is the only real mistake on the table. I've been doing this 28 years, and the men who came out ahead were almost never the ones who traded every 3 years chasing something newer. They were the ones who picked a good engine, took care of it, and drove it until the body gave up before the motor did. Every one of these 5 will let you be that man. So here's your one thing. Whichever of these 5 you own, clean oil on a real interval is what turns a good engine into a forever engine. That's the whole difference. If you want to go deeper, watch the Please Do Not Sell Your Ram Unless It Has This Engine video for the one exception to everything I just told you. And watch the one on why most Ram trucks don't make it past 200,000 miles and how mine hit 450,000. Subscribe so the next one finds you. That's it from me. See you in the next one.